Hi guys, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Today, my lovely mum, Deb, is helping me do some festive baking using the Thermocook Pro M 2.0 and IOD molds and stamps. Today we are going to be using the butter biscuits recipe that is already programmed into the Thermocook Pro M 2.0. So we're just scrolling through the baking section on the machine itself until we find the one we want, and then we will click on it. So here it's going to give us the ingredients, it's going to give us tips, and then we can scroll down and have a look at the preparation steps. Once we have collected all of the ingredients we're going to need, we can then press the make button and get started. The first thing it's going to tell us is to preheat the oven to 180 degrees. Then we can hit the next button and we can take the top off and start adding the ingredients. The wonderful scale feature on the Thermocook Pro M 2.0 is really a lifesaver. So we just start pouring in the flour to begin with, and we're just watching the scale until we have the right amount. So we're looking for 250 grams of flour. And again, this is saving getting out different scales, separate equipment. So it really is an all-in-one machine. So helpful. We're then going to clear that scale and we're going to be adding in 100 grams of sugar. After clearing the scales again, we can start cutting up the 100 grams of butter that we need. So just cutting that up with a knife and just putting it into smaller, more manageable bits. Following that, we're going to need to add an egg. Our eggs are a little bit smaller because they're from Bantam Chooks, so we did add in 2 small eggs instead. Next, it's 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Once we have all of the ingredients in, we're going to add the lid back on top, and then we are going to make sure we've got everything in there and press play. I love that I don't have to get out the hand mixer or use a stand mixer. It's just all in one. It's going to give me a couple of little warning beeps once we get down to 3 seconds, and then we can come in and unscrew the top so we can get started on the next step. Now, it does say to roll the mixture into a circular shape, but we are going to be using IOD's new Biblos mold. And to begin, we are going to sprinkle some sugar onto the base section there of the mold. This is going to help it not to stick, and then we can take the mixture off the stand there, and you can see it's mixed it all really well, and then we can start adding that to the molds. So we're going to start pressing that into the details. As I said, the sugar is going to act a little bit like flour, so we don't need to add that in, and it's just a matter of pressing it in. Now, my mum was lovely enough to get in and work the mixture into the mold while I was filming. And it doesn't matter if you don't get it all perfect in the molds, because you can come in, and you will see us do this a little bit later, you can come in and you can trim off that excess. So we're just going to continue to add the mixture to all of the ornament shapes. Next, we're going to flip the mold over and on top of a baking sheet of paper there, and we started to pull it back. Some of them came out easier than others, so we did end up grabbing a knife to get the rest of the cookie out of the mold. Then put the cookies into the oven for about 18 minutes. Once the cookies were finished baking and had cooled down, we focused on the fondant icing. So I've just got an image there of the one that I used. We have it between 2 bits of baking paper, and we're just rolling it out with a rolling pin and just getting it to approximately the size that we're going to need for the first cookie. Next, we flipped over the mold and pressed it into the fondant icing. Now, IOD molds have a micro rim, so we are able to get an outline of the cookie that we have just baked, and I love this feature. So once we have the outline done, we just took a butter knife and went around and cut the selected image out. Next, we added the fondant icing over the top of the cookie, and then we just sort of used our fingers to mold it to the shape. So if it was a little bit small or not quite the right shape, we did that. And then we took our IOD's new vintage snowflake stamp and pressed it into the fondant icing. So Mum started off doing this first one, and because I am a little bit of a perfectionist, I said that I would take over because I do love stamping, and it reminded me of stamping into clay. I then took over and took out a knife, and I'm just pressing that into the top section. This has a serrated edge, so I did love the pattern that was creating, and then I just did a little line across the top just to sort of more define the hanging attachment. Now, this design was not as obvious or defined as some of the others, but it still had a great look to it. I did consider using some food coloring to color it, but it was just a little bit too tricky. So I think that will be something I will try out in another video once I have my confidence up a little bit. Now, are these perfect? Not by any means. We are not professional bakers, but this was a really fun baking activity and anyone can do it. For the next cookie, I decided to take out my apothecary stamps, and I am going to be spelling out the word joy. And I am just positioning those out in the layout that I want. Just remember to only use the stamps that you have one set for food and have one set for your craft. So these are some I have not used before. Now I'm just gently pressing the stamp into the fondant. This was really fun. Again, this reminded me of working with clay. So I'm just pressing in each of those letters. You could definitely personalize these cookies. You could put your friend and family's names in it. I think that would be really, really fun and a really nice personal touch. And then I just used my fingers to sort of erase the outside lines. I then took out one of the borders that's in the apothecary labels stamp, and I'm going to press that down and have that be a border around the word joy. We had a really fun afternoon baking and decorating these cookies. Let me know in the comments if you think this could be something that you would like to do with your family or friends. I think these turned out really sweet, and I think they are also a great gift idea. Let me know what you think of our festive cookies in the comments.